Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career with a little self-help around the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope that what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. Hello, Positive Philter listeners. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. Today, I'm joined by a really special guest, a friend of mine, Marty, and we, this idea of this podcast came up because both Marty and I share a common bond of being alumni of George Mason's counseling program. And so when we were brainstorming ideas, as I do, for an episode, we thought, well, how impactful the career counseling program was to our lives, and that maybe necessarily the skills that we learned from that counseling program are not just applicable to counseling, but they actually kind of influenced outside in our personal lives as well. So, we're both dads and stuff. So for the guest, what up, Marty?
Hey, Phil, thanks for having me. I'm Positive Philter. Appreciate it. Nice to be here.
So give the audience a little bit of a background on, how we know each other in your career and the like.
Sure. I went through the same counseling program you did. I think you graduated in 13. You did? I graduated
12.
in 12.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated last May, actually, this year. Came through the program and did my internship at Career Services, which is where you did yours also. So we have similar backgrounds, and I graduated in May and started a job at Integrative Studies 3 weeks ago here at Mason.
So we're both in Mason, and we both we mirrored each other, and we did both did our internships at the Career Center, which is pretty dope. So we're kind of like twins,
And there were triplets and quadruplets out there. We got Rachel Lindsay, right?
Yeah.
Did that. Angelica did that. There's a small group of us.
So it's a path of how career and counseling intertwine. But I kind of shared me and my best friend Hillard both went through the counseling program. It's kind of a random way. How did you transition into the counseling program?
Oh wow, I haven't thought about that in a while. I moved down here and from New York in 2009, and we knew George Mason from the Final Four, 2006 run, right? So George Mason was in my head. I moved down here, found an apartment, and the day I was looking for apartments, the guy said, and we're 3 blocks from George Mason University. I was like, oh, the Final Four NCAA team. So I didn't know that meant that much to me at the time. But then I signed up for social work courses, non-degree, to get my master's while I was a stay-at-home dad. We had to switch roles when we moved down here. So I became a stay-at-home dad, which was not my plan, but I wung it like you wing it, figured it out. And I wanted to do something in addition to just staying at home, sometimes being driven nuts. I needed like an occupation in the evening, progress towards something. Social work wasn't for me. And then I forget exactly how, but somebody told me that there's a counseling program. And I was like, that's who I am. That's who I've always been. I took a non-degree research course with Dr. Goodman, and the rest is history. I just loved it.
That's funny because literally I'm like laughing and smiling because like our trajectory, I'm not a stay-at-home dad, but it was the same thing where I really didn't know much about Mason or the counseling program. I didn't do extensive research, and I just knew that when I was starting my new job, when I was out of college, I was like, I guess the next step for people that graduate is to get a master's. So I just started Googling master's programs, and I just saw George Mason. I was like, oh, they don't ask for the GRE. I don't have to take that.
Right.
So
I didn't even know that was a big deal, but it is apparently. You don't have to take that.
Yeah, it's like that. So I did the same thing as I took a non-degree course, but I think I took the Intro to Counseling program, Intro to Counseling.
Yeah, the 525.
Yeah, and that gave me a vibe. I was like, well, I kind of like this, and maybe this is something I pursue. So it was interesting that we both did a non-degree class to kind of get a feel, particularly to go back to school. And just see if this was a good fit for us.
Where were you working at the time that you knew you wanted to go back?
I was working at a school called Alternative Path Training School. So I was working with kids with special needs. They're on the spectrum of autism, but they have behavior issues. And so basically I was just a punching bag for kids. They just beat me up. But it let me know that I like working with people. I didn't explore that when I was in undergrad. I just thought you get a job, and one of my friends had a job, so he got me hooked up.
What was your undergrad in cycle?
History.
In history.
Yeah.
Wow. So you were signed up for the teaching field, helping field? And
No, I just took history because I like history.
Wow.
I had no
plan.
no plan. I mean, that's pretty much how I do lots of things. There's no plan, and then I figure it as I go along.
You're definitely an F then on your Myers-Briggs.
Yeah, I'm an F, and then I'm a P.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the P without doing it.
Yeah.
So, obviously, the program, we both did the same thing. We investigated it, and we thought this was the path we wanted to do. And luckily, there's no GRE requirement for both of us, and we had to do the interview, right?
The group interview,
Group interview, which, how'd you feel about that?
There was always buzz about it because I was a non-degree first, so I'd always hear, I have my interview coming up, and I didn't know what that meant, but the nervous look on people's faces made me think that it's probably something to be nervous about.
Right.
So I showed up, and I think I had Dr. Talleyrand, and it was Dr. McMahon's last year.
Okay, yeah, he's cool.
And I just went through it and answered honestly, and then it was there was some odd moments, awkward moments with people, other people, and they really push you though. They don't let you just give pie in the sky answers and then we all move on. It's like they keep grilling you. I forget one question was like, when was there a difficulty or whatever, right? And then you just say, oh yeah, I had a hard time. I can't remember the exact response I gave, but they keep grilling you, and I was like, okay, that's
So were you nervous?
I was, yeah. Were you?
No, and not to sound like it's another time where it's like, this is so random. I specifically remember my interview is with Dr. Chung, and I remember hearing the buzz about it as well as a non-degree student, but I was working, so I had to drive from work to the interview, and I was running late, and I had to change in the bathroom, put a suit on in the bathroom, and then I ran into the room late. So like
with Dr. Chung.
Dr. Chung, and she literally remembered that. Like I remember.
Oh yeah.
So she remembered. So I mean, I made an entrance, and I just sat down. I tried to sneak in, but I couldn't. And and then like as you said, like with interviewing, I don't think I've had a difficulty with interviewing because I just try to be as honest and genuine as I could.
Yeah.
And I do remember them like I didn't feel like they were grilling me. I think they were just. For me, it just felt like they were asking extra questions to get clarification.
Counseling questions.
Yeah, counseling questions. I didn't know at the moment.
I didn't know what they were either, so that's why it felt like grill. But I was like, no, these are,
I don't know. I just thought normal conversation that someone just like wanted clarification. Like maybe it was like it wasn't clear.
Yeah.
But I think I was more nervous that I was late than actual interview.
You were suited and booted, like you said to me, but with Dr. Chung and late, that's some recovery. You must have made an impression after that.
I guess I said really good, genuine answers, and they saw something in me. And I think that kind of leads into, maybe the topic is like that the things outside of life and how this influenced us. Because like for me, I didn't think a career path in counseling was what I wanted to do. But then it was almost like when I was going through the courses, I was like, okay, this is maybe my niche or something. Like I can talk to people. I like doing that.
Yep.
And so me and you brainstormed some ideas, and maybe I think that some of the things that helped me in my personal life or counseling made me a better person. And so some of the things I thought about when I thought about like me as a person, it was like empathy, my listening skills, and then like self-awareness. And those three aspects of my life that I guess I naturally had, that they're not teachable things.
Yeah, they're you.
They're you.
Yeah.
But they're like, I guess, what invaluable skills in counseling, and where I felt like they made me a better person outside the program. And so,
and you bring that to every counseling or every life experience.
I think I just bring that to my life experience.
You do.
And I think that's where I would encourage, if you're looking for certain programs, sometimes a lot of people focus on just academics and how you're going to grow as a person in that. But like for me, I felt like when I went into this counseling program, I felt like I took the classes like, this is going to make me a better person, period, outside of counseling, right?
Absolutely. I didn't realize that until about halfway in, and I was like, oh boy, it's starting to affect me when I leave here.
Right.
Can I ask you something then? When you would tell people you're in a counseling program, and they'd say, what kind of counselor are you going to be, I never really had a straight answer for that because I really didn't know. Did you have the same kind of like, well, how do I don't know, am I going to be like mental health counselor? Am I going to be just work with children with disabilities?
Oh, no. No, I did get that identity, that that confirmation when I took the career class.
And who did you have it with?
Talleyrand, I believe.
Okay.
And then my old supervisor, Ken, came and visited the class.
Yeah.
He did a presentation. And so then I was like, I want to go there. I want to go to the Career Center. And I want to do that kind of counseling, like career development. And I think it was almost like me talking to myself, like, I wish I could have had career counseling, because I like, that idea of like how you attach meaning to work or how you attach. So I was like, that's what I want to do. And so when going through the program, I didn't know when I started. But then as soon as that class was over, I was like, if I had a focus, that's the one I want to do. That's the one I want to do. That's it. So I think it was more like a class exposed me to that.
Same exact thing happened to me. And in that class, we took the Myers-Briggs and the Strong.
Yeah,
My Strong, the #1 career was career counselor.
I don't remember mine. Mine was like bartender.
That was number 3. Maybe we're good bartenders too.
We're good drinkers.
For the money. Yeah, we could do that too.
Yeah, which is funny because like I guess bartenders, they do a little bit of counseling when they talk to drunks.
Especially because the more vulnerable you are when you're drinking, and then the bartenders get that earful.
Right.
But yeah, I did the same thing, except took it to career counseling internship opportunity. Yeah, I'll take it.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Yep.
And so like, okay, so going back to like the 3 things that empathy. So I didn't really think of that as a skill. I didn't think about any of these as actual skills until like after that program. Like, wow, like some people are kind of deficient in empathy.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I think one of the things that did enhance is, when we did, the social justice project, and we had to put ourselves in someone else's shoes and see like, how would it feel if you had to have this scenario, and then how would you counsel that person? It kind of raised my awareness of being empathetic. So now, like, because of that exercise or that whole course of doing a role play and living a character, I think it helps me, like, when I work with people now or just meet people, I look at people's holistic picture, like, okay, wow, that's a tough situation. I can't imagine, having to go to school and study with 2 kids when I meet with students, right? Or like when my wife tells me stories now, I always say like, wow, that must be really tough. And I'm not doing it in a sense of sympathy. I'm doing it, empathy, where I'm like starting to, like, every time a friend or my wife or someone tells me a story, I start creating that scenario, like, what would I feel like in
you
that
wear
scenario?
the clothes of the person going through. You're starting to
And I think that skill was enhanced because of the counseling program and the exercise of the social justice class.
Yes.
So it's like that's one example, where I felt like my empathy skill was honed or enhanced by the
So
counseling
that
program.
project did it for you. That was the social justice project where you do the role play and the creative piece, right?
That one.
Yeah, that was a neat one. If we're talking empathy, I'd have to say social justice class also, or maybe it was multicultural, where stories were shared, and we were kind of, forced to put not forced, but encouraged that our biases be put out there.
Right.
And a student shared a story about like his family and lynchings on property down south. And I was like, wow. And I was thinking, as a white person, I don't have to share any stories like that, because that never happened to anybody or any white friend anywhere.
Right.
I can't even imagine what it's like to be sitting at a dinner in that family and they're remembering or honoring that person, right?
Right.
That really hit home for me. And I'm from a very diverse place in Queens, New York, right? But that's only the beginning of understanding other races and cultures. What we have to do is what you're talking about. Wear the clothes of the people that are going through things and just understand listen to them and hear them and feel that pain with them, and that really affected me in a way where I was like, I think my empathy was becoming enhanced too.
And you think you see that now, like when you hear a story or you hear it, like that's what I'm starting now, that kind of starts to play out in my head now. Like when I hear new stories or hear people telling me things that they're going through, difficulties, like I start picturing, like almost like playing it like a movie in my head of like what it'd feel like to be like that person. So then rather than say like things like, oh, just get over it, or that sucks, you're like, okay, like you understand some obstacles,
Yeah, or explore it a little more. Like, what is it like for you now? I mean, what do we refer to as transgenerational trauma, right? Well, what is it like for you now? What is it like, just what does it mean for you in your life? It doesn't have to be an answer or a solution or progress. It's just that might be how that person is affected, and maybe they live their lives with honor for that person that passed away.
Right.
Some of us, oh yeah, my uncle died from a heart attack. Other people, there was murder involved, and a very terrible time in this country. So, but that helped me be empathetic, even more so.
Right.
So that was effective.
And then, so my second bullet, is active listening or listening skills.
Yeah.
Now, I would say this one actually I suck at because I always speak first before I think, or I also interrupt people. so that was
positive toddler.
Yeah. So that was one of the things where that's because of the counseling program where we had to model listening and being quiet or sitting in silence.
That was the worst for me too.
I hated
being
it.
Italian from New York.
Yeah.
Please silence.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Okay, let's talk about.
Or if the listeners out there, if you know anyone about the Wilkerson James family, you know that we're loud and we talk over each other and we cut in stories. And I'm still working on that because my wife says that I interrupt her with questions like when she's telling me a story.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking about questions that are in the story, and she's like, if you let me finish the story,
you'll know all of that.
You'll know all the details.
You're like a kid with what's going to happen in the movie? What's going to happen?
She's like, I was walking, what street? That doesn't matter. So that was one of the things that I definitely need to work on. And it was something I remember when I recorded myself, I hated that. We had to record our own sessions, and I noticed. Listening back, I was cringing. I'd cringe about how often I interrupted people.
Yeah.
And
and they would be just about to express this big, and you're like, wait a minute, let's talk. Wait, no, just let it unfold, right?
So, and then like I said, to translate that into my personal life is I'm still trying to work on when I listen to people's stories, let them finish their story, and then I speak. But I'm still.
It's a struggle.
It's a struggle. Sorry.
Yeah.
Blame. I can't help it.
See, what I like to ask people when they say they're working on something is, what are they doing to work on it? Because everybody says they're working on things. So what actions are you taking? What things are you trying? Are you counting to 3? Are you trying to take 2 deep breaths in between? That's where the counseling comes in.
I don't know. I think I just stare at people in their face.
and rack your questions up. Okay, I have 7 questions.
No, I got to be honest. That was the first time someone said, what am I actually doing? I don't think I've actually thought about it like that. I mean, most of the times what I'm doing is let my wife go, shh.
That's how you're working on it.
That's how I'm working on it.
You just have to have her with you at all times.
Let him finish the story.
Yeah.
So that's something. But I think it's, but the active listening or sitting in silence, I have actually thought about that. I have used it even in career counseling, my counseling sessions where I really don't feel like I have to have an answer for someone, and I just look at them, and they look at me, and we just look at each other for a while, and I think, and I shake my head, and then usually someone breaks the silence. But I think that's a good skill too, because listen first, speak later.
Yeah.
And it's funny, that's a counseling skill, but it's also one of those kindergarten skills. Let someone else finish talking, then you talk.
Then it's your turn.
Yeah, then it's your turn.
Yeah. So it followed us all the way to master's level.
Yeah.
Right?
So honestly, the skills that you learn in counseling also you can teach kindergartners.
For sure, and vice versa.
And then the last one I think is self-awareness. I think this is the biggest one for me. I think honestly this is the biggest skill that was enhanced or developed. And I think had a transformative impact on my life, with my marriage, everything. And I think that's because not often did I understand my thinking or how to express my feelings or looking into myself. And I think we all could acknowledge, anyone that took the counseling program, one of the most powerful classes was a group class.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the first times where I had to, to keep, disclosure when we don't discuss what we talked about in that group. But it was still one of the first times where I had to analyze myself and participate in a real counseling session that. It was very powerful. And I think, fortunate, my wife, Maggie, is a social worker, so we do process. But because of that counseling program and that, I think it helped our marriage where we were able to really say, I feel this, and really look at ourselves or express ourselves saying, when you said that, I felt this way, or this is what I'm going through. And I don't know if it's just for me and my friends, but I've been able to articulate my feelings and my awareness of self way better and it's actually enhanced my friendships. My best friend Hillard, because he went through the counseling program.
Yeah.
like
Was he in group with you or at a different time?
No, he's in a different group, different time. He came after me, different. He did school counseling.
Okay.
But the fact is that he's been my best friend for like 15 years.
Wow.
And I feel like even our friendship has been even stronger. Like we say things like, hey, I'm feeling like this, and it's like we can like joke on each other, like make fun of each other, but then actually bring it back and have like a real
like a check-in
and how you're doing, and that self-awareness. And then also the people in my group have become, want to give one shout out to my boy Enrique. He's become one of my lifetime friends out of that. I didn't expect that to happen out of a class, but that was a very powerful and transformative thing. And I think that if that aspect of the one key aspect of the whole program, not just group, of self-awareness to help others, was probably the biggest takeaway for me for the whole program.
I agree with you, and the same thing happened to me. Just, you don't realize maybe how vulnerable you're not until you watch other people kind of, undress their feelings, right, in a group setting, and it's almost contagious, and then you feel, at first it's frightening, right? It's like, oh my God, I don't want to sit here in front of a group. But then as time goes on, you kind of learn to lean into it a little bit, because if we're going to urge our clients to lean into what they're afraid of, we better do it ourselves, right?
Right.
And you leave the program having done that. You need that stamp to do that. And I'm the same way. I started introspectively. I remember nights after group, I think we got out. We were the later group, so getting home at 9:30, I couldn't fall asleep till like 1 a.m. Just processing.
Your mind was still racing.
Absolutely.
I think I did that too.
I'd have to sit out back on my small patio and just like sit outside. It was the fall, and just like take it in. Like, wow, that was an intense one.
Yeah.
But we had a great, powerful group, and everybody just, as the weeks went on, it felt like the group changed each week, like cohesive, and then we were even more open with each other. And there was laughing also. It wasn't like this.
Yeah, it wasn't all serious. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
But it was a powerful experience, and I think that was definitely a notch on the belt toward the path of becoming a counselor, was going through that fire. And I'm grateful for it, because it could have been done differently, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Everybody could have taken a pass or done the easy thing.
True.
We were put in a position to get the most out of it, and that rest was up to us.
Right.
The position that was created, I think, was genius. I really think it was just...
Yeah.
It was great the way it was put forth, for me, in my experience.
What about self-awareness of self? How did it transform your relationships? Like I said, my personal with my wife, and your things, and what you're thinking about.
For sure. I think transform is a good word. I remember being more open with my wife, and also my ears were more open to her, right? Because then I wasn't doing things. It starts with, all right, what am I also doing that could be better, or that isn't serving our relationship in a positive way, and for her too? And we would have those discussions, and sometimes it would open a big can. Oh man, I wish we could just go back to. But it worked, and then in my other relationships too, and things started changing. I guess I started becoming further away from people who were a little more negative than I thought, and closer to people who were supportive, and I've kept on that.
I think that's interesting that I didn't really acknowledge drawing away from people, but I've known that I have found like my people, in a sense of people that are positive, and people that are expressive and self-aware, and people that are open to conversations like that, and then just kind of gravitate from superficial.
Right. And they see you as the kind of perpetrator here. What's the matter with you? You're different, but you're changing in a way that you've never even thought you could.
Right.
And you're doing that. And sometimes I think the side effect is losing relationships. We all want to be counselors and say, oh, we can maintain every relationship. Life doesn't work like that, right? You hope the best for people, but sometimes they have habits and things that they do that if you plug into it too long, it starts to affect you negatively. I feel that way anyway.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
But this is not I just want to let the listeners know this is not a paid for advertisement by the Mason Career Program.
Oh, no.
No,
Rite of passage.
They don't even know that we probably recorded this, but they don't. But the point is that I think that we both agree, and that's why we did this episode, is regardless that this was a very positive program. And I think, the gist, people may have some different pros and cons about their program or their experiences in counseling, the counseling program. But again, we had the shared experience where it was a positive one. And so that's why we did this episode.
Yep.
And I think that, you know, in regards to the bigger picture for the listeners out there, if you are interested in doing a counseling program, one, I would encourage you to look for a program that does have a social justice and
Yes.
group and multicultural component, because I think that's just instrumental in being able to connect with this diverse world. And I think that also, for regardless of any kind of grad school, rather than just take the academic learning part, how can you apply any of these skills and things to your personal life? Even if you're getting an MBA, like if you're getting an MBA in business, how can you take the skills that you're learning about networking and, you know, professionalism
and apply it to your
personal
whole
life?
career lattice? We
Yeah.
call it, not ladder, right?
Yeah, look at you.
Career counseling. I would also add, just because you're in a counseling program doesn't mean you just have to become a counselor. I learned that my last day on the internship. You could become a career counselor. You can become an educator. You can become a teacher. You can do a lot of things. So if you're in that helping mode and you're just not sure what you want to do, a counseling program will probably better your life and your career. Right.
You can use those skills. I mean, typically a lot of people we've seen, you know, if we did an alumni poll, you know, a lot of school counselors, they went to school counseling, but the opposite track of the community agency base is just all over the map.
Yeah.
And
do
a lot
a lot
of higher ed people and different things.
Right. Because did you go for your licensure?
No.
Or your what's that called?
The LPC?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, me
Because
neither.
my job's not, you know, clinical.
Right.
So, but I think it helped me. I think that still, like I said, the skills helped me to be a good industry advisor.
Absolutely.
So maybe I'm not on paper, you know, have this industry focus, but I realized over time it still helped me connect with people. It's helped me do this podcast.
Yeah.
It's helped me. It just helped me in tremendous ways. So
can I issue I've listened to some of your podcasts and I always like to break ground wherever I go.
Yeah.
A positive filter challenge.
Oh, what's that?
We each get one question.
Okay.
It could be any question.
All right.
And the other has to answer it honestly.
Okay. For all my guests, you mean?
Yeah, well, I want to start it.
Okay.
And you can tack it on to the end of each show. It's called make a fun name for it. You know.
All right, I will. I'll add that segment. New segment alert.
One question.
Okay, so you go. You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll ask first.
All right.
What are you most afraid of in life?
Okay. I might have to edit my long pause.
Silence. You're using it. See, we got you to use it.
Being a disappointment to others, or being a failure, or not doing well, or letting people down. So it's kind of like that aspect. So like one of my biggest fears, it would be like if I were to pass away like today, then no one would come to my funeral, or have anything nice to say about me.
So you value that in others and in yourself.
Yeah, or just like my obituary would just be like, just whack, like he was okay, like dot.
He was really average.
He was average. He was an okay guy.
Mediocre. This is a mediocre funeral.
Food's
kind of bland.
Yeah, he's lame. So I think that,
I don't think you got to worry about that, Phil.
No, but that would be my and also the disappointment factor, making mistakes. I'm really hard on myself in general. So I hate that feeling of letting people down or disappointing people or doing a bad job or feeling like you suck. Yeah. So that would be my biggest fear, and actually it coming true, something like bad happened and people don't want me around no more. So it's kind of an isolating thing.
But that all those feelings kind of come from the same place, probably, one of the professors, I think it was Dr. B. Mack, told me once, you let one get by you, because I disappointed some story or whatever, and I was like, yeah, I did. And I was tough on myself, too. He said, you let one get by you, right? Yeah, I did. He said, it's going to happen again and again and again and again. It's how you choose to treat yourself after that. Right? And it's not easy. It's not easy. But.
All right. Mine's not going to be so deep laden.
Yeah.
Because you try to hit me with something, almost made me have tears or something. Almost trying to hit me at a group counseling question. Without any restrictions, and you can go for a week, where would you travel and why?
That's a good question.
And you do the whole family too, family trip, because there's two different types of trips.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
there's
do this.
The boy trip, and then there's the family
let's
trip.
do like a solo, like
Okay.
Marty explore your world, like eat, pray, love kind of trip by yourself.
Gotcha.
Completely by yourself trip.
Okay.
And then a family trip.
Family trip. We'll start with the family trip because I'm already thinking I got to pack their iPads. And probably Hawaii with the family because there's swimming involved. My son Daniel loves volcanoes and lava. He's fascinated with it, like why it's a liquid and then it's a solid, you know. And the swimming aspect and the ocean aspect. I'm a big ocean person. For myself, I would want to go somewhere zen probably. And this is just today, right? Just started a new job. My brain is hectic. I'm learning a lot of skills that are taking a toll. I would need somewhere zen and quiet. I almost want to say like somewhere that has like peaceful tours, like maybe a somber part of Italy, right? Where they give church tours or something like that. Or another zen place where there's like a lot of...
like Japan.
Japan.
Like
does Japan have a lot of like quiet, reflective...
You go like those like temples with the water.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that. Like really quiet.
Yes. Or Eat, Pray, Love. Where did she go to?
Tuscan or something like
that?
Yeah,
Tuscan, and then
like
did a couple
India.
of places.
She did
India, and then she ended or started in that great place, but somewhere like that, you know, somewhere.
Explore your mind.
Yes.
All right, so obviously we did our new segment called I'll Ask You One Random Question, and you get to ask me one.
Cool.
I
Shot
like that.
for shot or something.
Shot
like
for shot.
That.
Oh.
Right.
Okay, you're an innovator. Might have you as a repeat guest. Lastly, is there any shout outs or plugs? I always do that. For yourself, social media or anything that you're doing or any projects you're working on.
Just to my new SIS friend, School of Integrative Studies, thank you for welcoming me. Thank you for having me and teaching me and being patient with me. And to everybody at Career Services who supported me through my journey here, and everybody in the Counseling and Development Department, of course, my wife and kids. And happy birthday to my dad, turning 80 on September 4th, going up there tomorrow to see him.
All right.
Yep.
All right, well, that's it. And, my normal shout-outs, if you like this episode, please share it with your family and friends. Write a review on iTunes or Stitcher, and keep supporting Positive Philter. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to Positive Philter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.